It's a bit too much to bear, and you need someone to lean on. When you look, there's no one there. You're gonna find me out in the country. Yeah, you're gonna find me way out in the country.
Welcome to some fresh air fun. Come rain or shine, people in their thousands flock to the great outdoors for fun, entertainment and the chance to get away from it all. Out here in the country is East Kilbride's 7th annual country fair.
You're as big a clown as me. Come on.
This year the fair celebrates the 21st anniversary of the twinning of East Kilbride with the town of Ballerup in Denmark. We're here to have a look at the events that make this a special occasion for the two towns. But before that, the fair has to be officially opened. And to perform the opening ceremony, all the way from Ballerup in Denmark, Mayor Ove Dalsgaard.
To all of you, my best greetings and wishes for a good East Kilbride Festival 86. Enjoy yourself.
I'm the entertainments manager for the town, and I'm responsible for picking the various entertainers and performers who will be appearing for a period of roughly 5 hours throughout the day at the various venues in the park.
What seems to be the most popular act?
Depends on what age group. The country fair is aimed at all age groups. It's a real family day out, right from the grands and grandfathers right down through to the children. And obviously with the children, there are things like the clowns and the magicians, and we have a jousting tournament this year, you know, and that'll obviously be very popular with the children. Adults, there's plenty for adults as well. There are all sorts of different bands and choirs and fashion shows and all sorts of different entertainment levels aimed at all of the family.
Sandy, on a day like this, or for example an act not turning up, what do you do?
Well, we've been very fortunate in past years. This is the first year we've had sort of difficult weather conditions. Everything has run very smoothly in the past. There have been one or two minor hiccups, but no major catastrophes. This year we have the slightly catastrophic weather, but we hope it'll pick up later in the day.
Sandy, I know you've got a busy day ahead of you, but thanks for taking the time to talk to us.
Thank you very much, Kathy. Thank you.
The main event here today is the World Muscle Power Championship, featuring Canadian Tom Magee, from Iceland, Sigmarsson, our very own Hamish Davidson, strongmen Van Eck and Wulfse, Mark Higgins and reigning champion Jeff Capes, who unfortunately because of injury is only a spectator here today. We'll be talking to him later on, but first the competitors test their strength in the harness track pool. winning the harness truck pull, Mark Higgins. A long way to go for these Goliaths. But here are some people always at the end of their tether.
Yes, son! Yes, come on, lift it up! Yes! Push! Yes! Yes! Oh, man! Get on, man! Hoger den top! Yeah!
Bill Dykes, you're the chairman of the Scottish Tug of War Association. It's not just a case of pulling a rope, is it?
No, it isn't. It's a very aggressive sport, and as you can see, all the chaps, they're no great big heavy chaps, but they're equally weighed. Each team is of an equal balance, so that one team isn't bigger than the other or doesn't have an unfair advantage of weight over the other. There's some of the chaps are quite slim. We normally work in various weights, from 600 kilograms per weight up the way to the heavy weights come in about 720 kilograms.
Why do you do it?
A very good question. Actually, I think half of us are mad.
Do you have any problems if the ground isn't dry enough?
There is the problem as the chaps, it creates quite a lot of muck and a lot of pressure by their wives when they have to wash all the straps. But other than that, the chaps really do enjoy it because muck, blood, sweat and tears, it's a sport.
You've taken part in it yourself. What did you get out of it?
A sore back, a sore leg, but really a great deal of enjoyment, and the teams are very friendly. There's a lot of rivalry between the teams, and the comradeship is really terrific. Because when you come to a big event and you see all the teams, everybody wants to talk to you, they all discuss tactics and one thing and another, and it's very good. There is never any problems or bother at our competitions.
Far too strenuous for me. But the nice thing about country fairs is that there's always something for everyone. Touch of Danish magic. Speaking of which, At the end of the log lift,
being injured, so I'm very much a frustrated competitor today.
what do you think the public get out of an event like this?
Well, I think personally, probably a lot of pleasure. You know, they see it on television and other strongman events, and let's face it, last time I think it was 14.5 million viewing. So I think deep down, you know, they would like to emulate us. You know, they'd like to be the same as us, probably 6'6", 25 stone, and strong and healthy, and doing things that they would probably only dream of doing. But on the other hand, they can watch and be close to rather than seeing it on television and say, my God, I didn't know he was really as big as that, you know. And people like Higgins, who was 6'9" and 22 stone, and only 23 years old. So, but we're all like that, so we're all pretty much average.
Do you think the bad weather has an effect on people coming along?
You know, obviously people don't like getting wet, but if they just thought that the skin is watertight, like a duck's backside, I suppose. But as competitors, we don't care at all, because if we get wet, it's the same wetness for everybody. It's only a question of just getting stuck in and carrying on.
Do you get as much fun out of it as if the sun was shining?
Oh, no. I think if the sun was shining, I think, you know, the performances themselves would be much better. The athletes themselves tend to kind of react to sun, and obviously the body's warm, it's more lucid and more active. And, you know, if it rains, you tend to tense up, so the muscle itself tenses up, so the performances are obviously less.
Who would you put your money on today?
If I was a bookie, I suppose, I'd put my money on Jón Páll Sigmarsson. But anything can happen, you know. He can knock the bar off 3 times. But all in all, he's becoming a much experienced athlete, and he's been in some of the best, strongest men in the world. So I think my money would be on Jón Páll Sigmarsson. Has to be.
With me here is Andrew Kennedy, who's going to tell me a little bit about the Gallus Morris dancers. Andrew, why do you do it?
I think it's a mixture of enjoying the dancing itself, the satisfaction of doing it right, and the social life that goes with it. And it takes you around to some interesting places as well.
Tell me a little bit about the costume you're wearing.
Well, it goes back to the days when you were dancing on behalf of the community rather than as an individual. So it's a form of disguise, and it's changed a lot over the years. But we wear the tabard, the loose overgarment, largely for practical reasons as much as anything. It's simple to make, and it keeps the Scottish weather off us. The purple is simply a non-sectarian colour, not to offend anybody. The bells are to make a bit of a noise for good luck and to frighten away any evil spirits that might happen to be around.
What do you enjoy most about it?
The satisfaction of dancing well, doing a show and knowing that you danced well there and getting an appreciative audience. Pulling an audience is very nice. But you dance for yourself as well, and it's nice just to be out with your friends and to dance well.
Let's take a look at what else is happening here.
Lovely weather for it, isn't it? Yeah.
I'm a genie, and this is the wee stickers we're giving out. So, this is Genie the Genius.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
You want these two as well? No. 40.
10 pence a raffle ticket.
10 pence for books.
Give her 5 pence.
It's not, if you're out to enjoy yourself, it doesn't matter what the weather's like. It's good.
Going to see anything special?
The beauty.
The beauty.
I could be better than this training.
Disappointment for Van Eck in that last throw, but a very exuberant Tom Magee on winning the weight for height. Tom Buckley, you're the team manager with the service dog display. When did you initially set the display up?
Well, it goes back a long time to just after the war, when my partner, who's now retired, and I set up the first security organisation in the country using dogs, or specialising in the use of dogs. And then we decided to put on a display with the dogs, which we did for quite a number of years. This, of course, was before the police forces in the country had dogs on any large scale. And of course, when they started getting dogs, they put on displays, and it rather pushed us out. So we thought one day what a good idea it would be to start to show people some of the things that the dogs did during the last war. And that's how we started as K9 Commandos, and trying to show those various items that people have not normally seen.
Do you cover a lot of these open-air events every year?
We do, on average, about 30 every year, and that's about enough for us because there's an awful lot of travelling involved. I mean, we've travelled up today from Cheshire, which is quite a run. Got to go back, and we'll have to have a few stops on the way to let the dogs out, but there you are. It's, yes, we do about 30 a year.
These are the famous McGlashan stones. Each stone is heavier than the preceding one, and no one has so far successfully lifted the fourth stone. Jón Páll Sigmarsson is the last to attempt this. Let's see if he can break the record.
Oh, easy for the first one. Come on, Jón Páll, let's hear it. Now, here he comes. Is he a monster? Jón Páll Sigmarsson, the last McGlashan stone. Nobody has done it so far. Can he do it? Yeah! I am a monster! He's just lost 3 brownie points.
Now do you believe they're heavy? Sadly, Jón Páll didn't break the record, but he still manages to win that event overall, from one group of champions to another. But these champions are on horseback. Gibbs, you're the Night Marshal with the Knights of Arkley. What are the Knights of Arkley?
It's a group formed about 19 years ago. Arkley is near Barnet, just north of London, and it was a Barnet fair to celebrate the Battle of Barnet, and it started with the local stables at Arkley. We put together 4 horses, just basically with bed clothes over them and broom handles, and it's sort of taken off from there now, where we're travelling all of the country and abroad. We're up to 36 shows this year.
Now, where are you all from?
Originally, most of us from round about Barnet, Arkley, St Albans, just north of London, that sort of area, which is how we all got together. Now the horses, as of the last 6 months ago, the horses and the Black Knight and the Marquee are based in South Wales, because we can get the property easier to keep the horses on, etc. But the rest of us still live sort of North London area.
Now, what kind of preparation do you have to make beforehand?
We have to ensure, as I said, obviously we've got the space. The ground has to be soft enough, not too soft, etc. Fairly flat, no big holes in it, etc. And obviously so that the crowd can see. Here today is perfect, natural amphitheatre. Just that sort of preparation. Obviously we've got to be careful with the weather. If it's too wet, then the horses could fall. Obviously that's our primary concern.
Why do you do it?
I wouldn't have been in Scotland this weekend if we hadn't done it. It gets you around the country. It's nice travelling, meeting different people, staying away from home, and it's fun. It's exciting.
How would you fancy shifting your car this way? Mark Higgins first in this event, the rope pull. This fair is truly international though, because this lion is Chinese. Alfred Chan, you've come along here today with the group. Can you tell me where you got this amazing costume from?
We got it from China. Obviously, you can see the skill to make it is, you require a lot of skill to make it. And it is even a dying skill in Hong Kong, so we could not get it from elsewhere except China. So we paid the money in China and then asked them to ship over.
What do you all get out of it?
I think, well, pleasure, I think, for the first thing. And second, I think we would like, to feel proud to present, the local Scottish people our, bit of culture. And I think, obviously, people watching it, they like it. And that's what we found so, satisfying. People watching us, they like it, they clap. And the lads enjoyed it as well, obviously.
Does the weather matter a great deal to you?
It does indeed. I think, weather like this is, if it's not raining, it's okay. But if it rains like this morning, it's terrible. The lions, actually, as you can see, is made of paper mache. Now, it can't stand water or rain at all. So for that, I think, we are a bit cautious with wet weather.
Now, this is the final event, so a lot depends on this. Speed doesn't matter, it's how far they carry it that counts. They don't look very big, but they're solid metal. Total of 330 pounds. Well, that's a good carry.
And Jeff Capes was right. Nordic giant Jón Páll Sigmarsson wins the Fergus Walk and so becomes the World Muscle Power Champion. Well, that's the end of this fair. I hope you've enjoyed some fresh air fun with our champion. From Calder Glen Country Park, goodbye.
When the world in which you're living gets a bit too much to bear, and you need someone to lean on, when you look there's no one there, you're gonna find me out in the country. Yeah, you're gonna find me